So welcome everybody. My name is Michelle Lorenz and I am here with LifeVantage to talk to you about how our products are blowing up performance for all sorts of athletes all around the world. And I'm really, really privileged to introduce you tonight to one of my business partners. Her name is Heidi, and Heidi is up in Southern Idaho. So Heidi, you are in the nutrition area, right? Is that what your profession is?
Yes, that's correct. A nutritional therapy practitioner.
So what is that? I know when you and I first talked, I'm like, what does a nutritional therapy practitioner do? Well, how is that like a nutritionist, or what do you do?
Yeah, it would be a similar comparison to a nutritionist, but focusing more on bio-individuality. So each person is different and what their body needs as far as nutrients is different.
Oh, cool, cool. Okay, so how do you do that evaluation? Do you do it with blood work? Do you do it with exercise, working them out? How do you assess that?
We have some hands-on evaluations that we can do that kind of tests out how different organs and systems are functioning. And so that's kind of our main way of doing things.
Cool, cool. And so I'm guessing that because of your passion for nutrition and individuality, that might have been what got you interested in our company, which is LifeVantage. Is that right?
That was a really big part of it. Yeah. It made sense to me because of that. And I was a biology major in college, so the science makes sense to me. Ultimately, it was our oldest son who's on the autism spectrum. I was looking to help him nutritionally, and that's kind of what drove me to that avenue, and then finding LifeVantage.
You know what? I didn't know that part of the story. So we talk about that. So that's actually kind of fascinating. And so now that I know that about Heidi, we will definitely come back and talk about that, because I had a foster son that had sensory processing disorder, which is also on the autism spectrum, and some friends that also have kids with sensory processing issues. So when I tell you we have, would it be fair to say, mind-blowing results when we are empowering our children's pharmacies inside their own bodies to turn on how they can help themselves, right? So let's come back and talk about that another live, Heidi, because that's exciting in and of itself. But tonight, we wanted to talk to you a little bit about athleticism and about sports performance. So Heidi, I know that you were a collegiate athlete, right?
Yes, I was.
And what did you run?
I was a sprinter. So I was primarily a 400 runner, so a quarter miler. And then I did the 4x4 relay and the 4x1 relay as well.
So those of us that aren't runners, we don't think 400 is a sprint. When you told me that, I was thinking like 50, hundreds, but 400.
No,
yeah.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. Okay. So you ran the 4x4 and you ran the 400 yourself. Where'd you go to college?
At George Fox University in the Portland area.
Okay, cool. So gorgeous Pacific Northwest, for those of you that are on live around the world. That's absolutely stunning. If you haven't been to Idaho, where she lives, or up to Oregon and Washington and in the United States, the Pacific Northwest is probably one of the most beautiful places in the world that I've ever been. So definitely check those out. So did you run all 4 years in college?
I did, yes.
And so what was your, kind of like your own Hall of Fame moment? What's your best memory of when you were running in college?
My junior and senior year, 2 years in a row, we qualified for the national meet and made it to finals in the 4x4, and also myself in the open 400. I was able to compete at the national meet. And actually we did get inducted into the school Hall of Fame for our relay team. So yes, I do have that.
I had no clue. Okay, good. I didn't even guess. We should have prepared a little bit more for this.
Well, that's okay.
So when have you been running? How old are you, by the way? If you don't mind.
44, almost 45. Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, look at how amazing she looks for 45. So that's in part from some of these good genes you have, but also from some of the good genes you're activating here with our product, LifeVantage. So Heidi and I wanted to come and tell you this story tonight because she has been a runner since college. So for the past 25 years, you still run. Yeah?
Yeah, I actually started running in middle school, so it's been even longer than that.
Wow. Okay, so I know you have a child, so you were running after your pregnancy and you kept running throughout your adult life then?
Yeah, basically. I mean, as life goes, it would be on and off sometimes, but I am a runner and I love it. And as I've gotten older, it's kind of morphed. I don't sprint anymore. It's just not in me. But I have grown to really love distance running. Yeah.
And so it's kind of cathartic for you then, kind of your,
Absolutely.
you have some meditation and some time away from the kids and the dogs and
Yeah.
the noise and everything.
Yes, yes. I have 3 boys, so there's always a noise.
Okay, well, yeah, that's what Zumba does for me. It's my chance to go and release there. So, okay, so you have been running since you were in middle school. You're 45 now, so almost 40 years you have been running. So tell me about I'd heard you're getting ready for a marathon. What marathon are you getting ready for?
Yeah, actually, I'm just running the half this time. Yeah, but it's just the Boise, like the City of Trees, I think it's called, in Boise. And I'm running the half and my husband's running the full.
Oh, so your running is in the family. You both run.
Yes, he's a basketball player. He was a sprinter, but he's kind of slowly morphed into a little bit of distance.
Okay, cool. So this is definitely a family affair that you do with you and your husband. Your boys run too?
2 of them. Yeah.
Cool, cool. So you're getting ready for this half marathon. And for those of us that aren't runners, a marathon's what, 26 miles,
2.
26.2?
26.2. Yeah.
Okay, so your half marathon, you are going to be running how far? 13?
13.1.
Okay. So in your preparation for this, how long do you start training ahead of time for the marathon?
The training program that I'm using is 12 weeks.
Okay. So where are you in that 12-week cycle right now?
I am about week 9.
Okay, so you're getting close to the event with the month.
Yeah, we're about 3.5 weeks away.
Okay. So I heard not last weekend, but the weekend before that you went out and you ran 9 miles in your training for this, right? So tell us about that run. How did you feel?
Okay. So yeah, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, my long run on Sunday, I always do my long run on Sunday, was 9 miles. And it was very, very typical, at least typical for what running has been for me lately over the last 3, 4, 5+ years, where a long run like that makes me tired. It kind of wipes me out. I get just fatigued and my muscles are tired and I'm sore usually for a couple days afterwards. And this one was no different. My times were not incredible.
Okay.
And I was sore.
Let me interrupt because you said you get sore. So the athletes that are on the call, maybe the bodybuilders, they will call this DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. But for the people who aren't athletes that kind of are just like weekend athletes, that's what you might refer to as lactic acid building up in your muscles, right? So the next day you're like, oh man, I got out of bed. What did I do yesterday? Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And it kind of wears you out. So importantly, you exercise regularly. So this wasn't like me who does Zumba going out to run 10 miles. This is part of your regular every day, every week. You probably put, how many miles in do you typically put in on a week?
Oh, it just depends on my training schedule and where I'm at in that schedule. But I run usually 6 days a week.
Okay. And at least 2 or 3 miles a day?
Yeah, always 3 or more.
Okay. So for those of you on the call, like she's a runner. she's not a faker, right? She's not somebody who's trying to run a half marathon. She's hardcore. So you have been doing LifeVantage products for how long about now? 2, 3
1
years?
year.
1 year.
1 year.
Okay. And in that, she uses a product that's called an NRF2 activator, right?
Yes.
And you use NRF1 as well.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll just give you a little bit of background, kind of the 20-second synopsis. NRF2 is our very first product, and what that does is it takes care of oxidative stress and inflammation and detoxifies your body. So for her, she's going to get a lot of inflammation as a almost 45-year-old woman. She's going to get buildup of inflammation in her body, especially in her joints, probably your feet, your knees, your ankles, your hips, right? And so this helps turn on your body's pharmacy so that your own body's antioxidants that are up to 1 million times more powerful than the antioxidants that you would get at the store and the anti-inflammatories you'd get at the store. And so what's really cool is it flips a light switch and it tells your own body, hey, we need anti-inflammatories and we need you to turn down those pro-inflammatory things. So she's been taking Nerve2 to help her joints and to help her overall health along with your son. And that's been working wonderfully for you. I know you've had some pretty phenomenal results with how you felt, right?
Yeah, it's helped quite a bit. I still did have more soreness and aching than I wanted though.
Yeah, well, that's because we're 40. You're 45 and I'm 56. So
I'm not willing to admit it.
Exactly. So as we age, you guys, there's this really cool book that just came out about 2 weeks ago, and it's by a Harvard geneticist. His name's Dr. David Sinclair, and the title of the book is called Lifespan: Why We Age and why we don't have to. And in this book, he talks about these longevity genes that we have in our body, and they're called sirtuins, 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 kind of a funky name. So these sirtuins, they discovered that when people were going through caloric restriction, when they, like famine times, they discovered the people that had been in famines, that they lived longer. And that even their kids who hadn't been through the famine lived longer. So it was causing genetic changes in their body. And so they set about trying to figure out why. And so this doctor at MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, he was kind of the leader in this field. And then this doctor at Harvard, whose name's Dr. David Sinclair, was one of his PhD students. And so it was his mentor. And they found these sirtuins and they figured out what activates them. And so what activates them is a derivative several molecules downstream from vitamin B3 or niacin. So it goes through a whole bunch of machinations and turns into a whole bunch of different chemicals and molecules, and ultimately results in a molecule called NAD. So we won't bore you with the name, the long chemical name. You don't want to have to remember it, but NAD. So just remember NAD, because we are launching an NAD activator here at LifeVantage on Friday, on October 4th. And so some of us leaders actually got a sneak peek of it. Now, mine hasn't arrived in the mail yet, unfortunately, but I know Heidi's has. And so she took our NAD activator. When did you start it?
I started Friday morning.
Friday morning. And so you took it, you had a 3-day supply, right?
I did, yeah.
So Friday morning, Saturday morning, and Sunday morning. So
Yes.
give us kind of a 20-second snapshot of what you immediately felt. Did you feel it the first day?
I did. Probably about 3 hours in, I started noticing just this crispness, clarity. I was so fully present and clear in a conversation that I was having with a friend. It was like nothing I remember experiencing before. Yeah, so it started pretty early for me.
Okay, so you felt right away that first morning, and we take this in the morning. So right away the first morning, you're like, okay, something's pretty cool going on here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and so did you do your normal runs on Friday and Saturday?
Friday is my rest day, so I didn't do a run that day. And then Saturday I did go out. Just I think it was only 3 miles. Maybe it was 5. Okay. I don't know.
5 miles. No big thing. Yeah. Just a short little sprint. Okay, but then Sunday, because
yes.
I know that Marilee is one of our business partners, and she's like, oh my gosh, you cannot believe Heidi is blowing up my phone with what happened after her run on Sunday. So Sunday, the week before, you had run 9 miles, right?
Yeah.
And what was your pace on that 9-mile run? Or what is it generally?
It was roughly average on that far of a run. It's going to be high 9 minutes.
So 9.5 to almost 10 minutes per mile, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you go out Sunday morning, and what was the weather like on Sunday?
It was cold here. Yeah, it was pretty cold. Probably 45.
And do you like it?
I do. Yeah.
So you know what's really great, just as a side tip for anybody, one of the things that helps turn on your sirtuins, besides these NAD boosters, is caloric restriction. But the other thing that helps turn on your NAD and your sirtuins is exercising in the cold. So yes. you know those people that go in the Norwegian countries, they go jump in the Arctic, right? They do the polar plunges. Great for your longevity, great for your sirtuins. But Heidi, so she's out running in the kind of cold weather. And so tell us about your run.
Yeah. So I started off kind of easy. I was really curious to see if I noticed anything, but quite honestly, I wasn't expecting it to be very much. I thought maybe it would just feel a little better, because normally when I run that far, I think, and this is the sprinter in me, I'm just kind of negative when I run. I think about things like my feet hurt, my hips hurt, there's too many bugs flying into my face, why is it so windy, those kind of things. And
I don't know, because I don't run, but okay. They don't have bugs in my face in Zumba class, but we're getting
right. But that was the first thing I think I noticed was, gosh, I feel good. And it wasn't just that I physically felt good, my brain felt good. I was fully present and engaged in my run, and I was enjoying the whole thing. And I got about halfway into it, and I use an app that tells me my splits as I'm going. And so every mile I was like, faster, more, faster than what I'm normally running my long runs on Sunday, and thinking, okay, this is kind of interesting. This is kind of cool. and ended up finishing.
Let me ask you a question. So
Yeah.
was it that your pace from mile 1 was getting better as you got to mile 5?
It did, partially
before.
Yeah, it did get a little bit faster as I went, probably through the first 4 miles, and then it kind of averaged out. But it was partly because I have to warm up and being a little bit colder. So I usually start out slower anyway. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So you were pretty surprised, I know, that your pace was running about what? When you hit your 5-mile mark, what was your pace?
Oh gosh. Probably 5 miles. Well, there's a big downhill on that 5-mile loop. So it was a pretty fast one, but it was in the 8 minutes, high 8s probably. Yeah.
So you said and telling me that the week before you were in the high 9s. At the end of this 10-mile run, what was your overall average pace?
It was, I believe, like an 8:37, 8:47. Yeah. Right around a minute faster than my average from the week before.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's basically running 10 minutes faster than you did the week before on a 10-minute race, right?
Yeah.
I mean, more than 10 minutes faster.
On a mile longer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was very unexpected. Yeah.
So not being the runner, if you're doing this, would you normally expect to get into week 9 of your training and see that much of a change in your training?
No, not with the way I usually feel after a run. I mean, yes, there is progression that happens, but I was not pushing myself. I was not trying to run faster. Sometimes during the week, I'll have a run where I'm trying to train a little bit faster, but it's shorter. So on our long runs, they're usually more relaxed, a little bit slower pace. And I was just running what felt comfortable to me on Sunday, and it was that much faster.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you aren't even trying to go hardcore. You're just kind of just doing what you would normally do. Okay. So this is really what's fascinating to me. You're 44. And I know when we spoke before, when was the last time that you ran 10 miles in a pace under 9 minutes?
It was probably almost 10 years ago.
So one more time. How long ago?
Almost 10 years ago.
Yeah. You guys, so think about that. So she's an active runner. She runs every week. She puts in a couple miles, 3 to 5 miles, 6 days a week. She's fit. She's done half marathons before. She's been taking great products before. She's a nutritionist, for goodness sake, and she's activating her sirtuins by running in colder weather. She lives in Idaho, so you're probably getting a lot of that. So all of these things that she's been doing since she was in grade school, like middle school. And yet something changed. And the only thing that changed was what?
The 3-day sample of the NAD Synergizer that I was taking was the only thing. And in fact, I really didn't eat very well over the weekend. So that did not help me at all.
So, okay. So the lawyer in me is like, what does that mean? You didn't eat well. Did you have beer? Did you have bread? What did you have?
I don't like beer. I had some wine. Let's see. I think we had hot dogs in buns. We don't usually eat grains or breads.
Unhealthy sugars in your body, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. So I love this because what happens with NAD, and Heidi and I were talking before we got on the call, is NAD turns on your mitochondria. So I don't know, Heidi was a biology major, so she knows what mitochondria are. But for those of you that don't, mitochondria are the engines. They're the engines of our cells, right? It's what gives our brain the energy to think. She's thinking more clearly. It's what gives our heart the energy to pump. So she's pumping more oxygen out to her body. It's what gives our muscle the energy to flex, right? To run. So mitochondria are these just super powerhouses. You need healthy mitochondria to live. If your mitochondria die, you die. And we have, like in your muscles, like your bicep muscle, there may be a couple hundred mitochondria. In your heart, there may be 5,000, right? So the brain and the heart, because they use our most energy, they have the most. So here's what's really cool about this research that came out of Harvard. Just like it blew my mind when I read this book. So you eat your food. Heidi's obviously pretty cognizant of what she eats before she does a run, being a nutritionist. You eat your food. Your food turns into fuel, and that fuel is used by what? Your mitochondria. And so, like I said, they're like the engines. So you're putting premium fuel into this so that you can be a Mercedes-Benz driving down the ride. You want your body to be a healthy, fit car. And then here's what's really amazing. It converts it into this stuff called ATP. Heidi knows what this is. It's adenosine triphosphate. It's basically it's the fuel for your body that goes out to your muscles. And here's what's so cool, you guys. So this ATP, athletes know the phrase VO2 max. They know what VO2 max is. That's measuring how much oxygen gets to your muscles, not how much oxygen you take in, but really fit athletes like Michael Phelps or like Heidi. They have healthy mitochondria and they have a higher VO2 max. And so there's a really great quote. I want all of you to write this down and go check this out. So do you remember the Tour de France? And I don't know if you follow it, but remember Greg LeMond from the Tour de France? Yeah. So Greg LeMond was the only American that's ever won it without being on performance enhancing drugs. And it's a crazy ride, right? And Greg LeMond has one of the highest VO2 maxes ever recorded in the history of sports. The other one was Eric Heiden, as an aside, just as a trivia question for everybody, the Olympics speed skater. So typically cyclists, cross-country skiers, they're the ones that have these great VO2 maxes, and the higher the VO2 max, the better. So Greg LeMond was in the high 80s, and he wrote this book with this MD, and he said, listen, athletes, we all worry about carbs and protein. What's my ratio of carbs and protein? And he said, but if you don't know what mitochondria is, you need to figure it out, because mitochondria should be as common in every athlete's vocabulary as protein and carbs, because it's even more important than them. So here's what we're listening to. This book was in 2015, and it was all about how to optimize your performance, right? So we're following Greg LeMond's advice. We're talking mitochondria, and this NAD, it goes into your body. It turns on your sirtuin genes, and there's 7 sirtuins altogether, but 3 of them, their job is to what? Regulate mitochondria. So we've got 3 genes in our body whose job, that's their job, to regulate mitochondria. And then the mitochondria generates ATP, and then you get more VO2 max. And so what happened to Heidi is she's getting more oxygen to her muscles, more oxygen to her heart. And so what happened? She didn't feel like she was pushing herself, but she was able to run 10 miles in an under 9-minute pace. What did you tell me? 8:36 was your pace or something?
Yeah, 37, something like that.
Yeah, 8:37 pace per mile, right? Over 10 miles. So that's what was going on with her body. Now, this is brand new science to us. So Heidi was one of the first athletes to try this, right? We knew what the book said, and we knew what the scientists said at Harvard. In fact, there's a really powerful study that Dr. Sinclair talks about in his book. Check this out. So they put these little mice on this treadmill, and the treadmill's programmed to not go any more than 3 kilometers, because what little mice can run 3 kilometers? Like, they thought that had never happened before. So they put these 2 brothers, littermate brothers, on the treadmill, and one has been NAD activated and one hasn't. And they start running like little mice do, and they broke the treadmill. They broke the treadmill because the mouse that was NAD activated, he didn't stop running. He outran his brother by 80. And when the treadmill stopped, he still kept grinding, trying to get the treadmill to go. And he broke the treadmill at Harvard. So this is in the book. And he said, the other thing is, you looked at the brother that wasn't NAD activated, that wasn't using NAD, and he was kind of gray. They were like the equivalent of 65 years old in mouse years, if you will. And he's like, that little guy, he's gray and kind of feeble. And the one that's NAD boosted, like, he looks robust, like a young, fit athlete. So think about this if you're an athlete. Heidi, are you a football fan?
No, not so much.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. So football fans, anybody that follows football, that Tom Brady is in his 40s, and he is just an absolute, whether you like him or not, you have to recognize that he is playing at an elite level and winning. But part of what he's been doing since he was in his 20s is he has been eating a plant-based diet. And so what he's been doing is he's been getting broccoli. He's been getting all of these things in food that help keep what? Your sirtuins young, right? And so he's part of the reason that he's able to play at 40 when some people are retiring in the early 30s is because he's keeping his longevity genes doing what they do best. And that's why he looks good for 40. So look at Heidi. She doesn't look 45. That's amazing, right? So she's doing the same thing. She was activating her sirtuins with high intensity endurance exercise, like all athletes do. And she continued to do it her whole lifespan. So she's turned on her body's longevity genes. And now, even though she's been doing this her whole life, and even though she's taking care of herself, even though she's a nutritionist, like she's done everything you should do to keep your longevity genes turned on. But what the scientists at Harvard have said is by the time you turn 50, your sirtuins, your longevity genes, they work about 60% of what they work 60% less effectively. So you only got like a third of your normal capacity. So Heidi has kept her sirtuins working, but despite that, once she turned on her sirtuin pathway, her sirtuins the other day, Sunday, she was able to run 10 miles in under 9 minutes for the first time in 10 years.
Yeah.
Think of 10 miles for the first time in 10 years in a sub 9-minute mile pace, right? That's
right.
That's really impressive. When was so the last time you probably ran that sub 9-minute was in your 30s? Early 30s?
Yeah. My youngest was about 4 and he's 14 now. He was 4 or 5. Yeah.
Guys, this is why we are so excited. And I have to share, like, I had somebody comment on my Facebook post earlier, like, that couldn't happen. The Harvard doctor, he's listed in Time magazine 2014 as one of the 100 most influential people in the world, right? He's a big deal in the scientific community. This is his book. And in his book, he says, not only did we help these mice have more endurance, and we turned them into ultra marathoners because they actually ended up running 3 kilometers. So think about a little itty bitty mouse running 3 kilometers. He says has never happened before. So he turns them into ultra marathoners by using an NAD booster. But on top of it, they helped their coordination. It helped their mobility. It helped their athleticism. It helped their balance. It helped all of these other things that go into making us fit, vital athletes, right? And at the end of that, he said, we turned them into the equivalent of, are you ready for this? This 65-year-old mouse was the equivalent of a mouse American Ninja Warrior. Like, mic drop. Like, the mouse was an American Ninja Warrior, right? Can you see him running around doing the little obstacle courses and stuff? So that's why we are so excited. We are giddy. We have so many stories already from all the people that have been using this. It's open and available for the public on Friday. We are going to be learning from all of the scientists that help us bring this to market. And the cool thing is, you guys, we're doing this naturally. These are from phytochemicals, right, Heidi? And that's so important. Phytochemicals, plant chemicals, all natural. And the great thing, so a lot of you are probably saying, well, does this interact with anything? This Harvard doctor says, you know what's great about NAD is it's what's been in our body since we were brand new babies. So it's not contraindicated. It's not interacting with anything because all we're doing is we're opening up the spigots of our body's own pharmacy. So our body's own pharmacy does what it was doing back when we were 20. And he says, look, this isn't just for athleticism. It's also to help us live longer and to live healthier during that time that we live. So we are so excited. We pioneered NRF2 activation in 2003. I know that's what intrigued Heidi and I. We pioneered NRF1 activation in 2016. And, the scientists are saying those are going to be like the greatest therapeutic and preventative breakthroughs in the history of medicine. But wow, when you talk about what's going on in the athletic community, this is a big deal. You may have heard of precursors like NR or NMM. Our product, listen to this, our product outperformed those. So one of those tests at 2% at 24 hours. So it raises your sirtuin activity by 2%. The other one raises your sirtuin activity by 40%. Our product raised your sirtuin activity by how much, Heidi?
100%.
100%.
Yeah,
so
huge.
We are beyond excited. And here at LifeVantage, one of the things that, Heidi's got a background in biology. Like science matters to her. My background in the law. Evidence matters to me. So both of us, when we checked out this company, we read the peer-reviewed studies. We looked at all the research. We made sure that other scientists had read those peer-reviewed studies and validated them and made sure that they weren't biased, made sure that they were based in science. And other places have as well. So just last fall, the University of Arizona, where I'm from, their College of Medicine did a review of cardiovascular health. And they said that NRF2 and oxidative stress are at the heart of cardiovascular health. But the other thing they said about our product, Protandim, which is our product line, that it has been vetted in scientific journals, and this is a quote, vetted in scientific journals and clinically proven to activate nuclear NRF2. We have another study coming out about our NAD activator that Heidi and I have been talking about tonight. Our company is based in science. And that's so important, you guys. Instead of just hearing a testimony, as great as Heidi's testimony was, if that's all it was a testimony without science, we wouldn't be with this company, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So we are excited to tell you about it. Get back to whoever shared this Facebook Live with you. Ask them about how you can get a sample of this, because you'll feel it within maybe the first day, maybe the second day. We don't know, but definitely very quickly. Whereas our Nerf 2 and Nerf 1 activators, they can take a couple months, right? Usually a 1 month for every decade of life. So we're so excited that you're going to be able to feel this right away and see what has made all of us so absolutely passionate about helping our family, about helping our horses, about helping our dogs, because this works the same in all mammals. So if you've got an athlete in your family, maybe a child, and oh, by the way, important for athletes, BSCG certified, right? So that stands for the Banned Substances Control Group. So you can take our product and test clean on a drug test. You don't have to worry about popping a drug test for performance enhancing drugs. So we're super excited to share this with you. We have so many professional athletes using our products with this company. And here's what you want to remember. We don't pay endorsement fees. So if you ever see an athlete endorsing a product, you need to ask if they get paid an endorsement fee, because some of them get paid millions of dollars to convince you to use the product. We don't do that. The athletes that use our products, they use them because they get the results like Heidi just had last Sunday.
Right. Michelle, can I jump in really quick too?
Oh yes, because we actually have one more thing I wanted to mention too. Go ahead.
Oh, well, it might be what I'm going to say right now, because equally as important to me on my run, how good I felt, was what I felt after. Oh. I did not, usually I'm very sore, tired, fatigued. And the next day, like we talked about at the beginning of the call, I had zero DOMS. Right after the next day, I felt like when I finished that run that I could go again. And I felt like Monday morning I could get up and go again. Absolutely no soreness, no tiredness, nothing. It was incredible. Absolutely incredible.
I absolutely love that. And, you know, the other thing I wanted to, I know you went out and ran today. And so you've been 2 days off of NAD. And so you were a little bit worried about what would happen today. So how far did you run today?
Today was 5.
And how did you feel?
I felt a little bit more like I was working, but not a lot of effort. And it was just about as fast.
So it started to wear off a little bit because it was a 5.
Maybe a tiny bit.
Yeah. So you were still under 9 minutes, 9-minute pace?
Yeah. Yeah. It was like 8:52, I think, was my average.
Okay. So a little bit, half the distance and a little bit longer pace, but still better than what you've been doing for the last 10 years.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're both flying into Long Beach and we're like drug addicts waiting for our next fix. Like, when is our NAD going to be available? So we get ours again Thursday, and you'll hear both of us going live and talking about it. But there's one other thing that I want you to mention, because I'm going to be real. So my whole life, I've struggled to keep my weight down, and it's been a battle for me. And so you didn't mention this on the call, but you mentioned it privately when you and I were talking. So tell me about the other cool thing that happened in 48 hours after you were NAD activated.
Yeah. So I just out of curiosity, I don't usually weigh myself because I don't focus on that. But just out of curiosity, because I was starting something new, I weighed myself on Friday morning, which is when I started my 3-day sample. And then 48 hours later, so Sunday morning, and it was before my run, so I hadn't lost the sweat and the hydration. Sunday morning, I weighed myself again, and I was down 4 pounds. And like I said, I didn't do anything different. It was a normal run week. I ate poorly. So that was kind of exciting, kind of unexpected.
Yeah. And so again, the science validates that, because that Harvard geneticist said with those mice at Harvard that they got these 2 little brothers running on the treadmill again, and that the mice that were boosting their NAD, that the quote from the book is they were able to stay thin despite what they were eating.
Yeah.
So there are some really fascinating studies going on in the context of diabetes and glucose and all that kind of stuff. We'll certainly stay tuned for that. You know, we don't have any of those in the context of our product yet, but you're going to hear a whole lot of testimonies from people like me who are going to be shouting from the mountaintop I'm ready to go do double hours of Zumba classes. I'm waiting for the same kind of impact that you had just within what I love to do. And there's also some really powerful studies that I will be sharing with you as we go forward about the impact on muscular strength, and especially for people that have been away from the gym, where you lose some of the functionality in your muscles by getting NAD activated. You're going to restore that function almost immediately. They talk about it's really powerful. The research in this area, you guys, it's kind of like on Star Trek. It's like mind blowing, or for those of us that are old enough, like Bionic Man and Bionic Woman, right? That's what I kind of feel like is we're turning on our body's own genes. We're turning on God's pharmacy in our body. And like, really, who does it better than God, right? It just, right. we're set. He knew what we needed, and we have those genes, and now we found a way to turn them back on. So Heidi and I both need to run, because we are going to go listen to a panel of our physicians that are here with our company. And we have thousands of healthcare professionals like Heidi, but also practicing cardiologists, practicing chiropractors, family physicians, people that deal with traumatic brain injuries, a cancer pathologist. We have a kind of a who's who's list of doctors that are involved with our company, and they're going to be talking about our new product at the top of the hour. And so we need to run. But Heidi, I'm so grateful for you sharing this story with us. And we expect an update. So we're going to want somebody to show us your film from the marathon and show us what your pace is, and keep track of all of that for us. And
absolutely.
I'm meeting you in person in Long Beach.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. As we get back here, remember, if you didn't type in the beginning where you're from, do that in the comments below, and definitely let us know what sport you are passionate about. So super important. And get back to whoever invited you, because see if they've got some product that they can give you a 3-day sample of, so that you can see if you can up your performance, if you can decrease your pace, if you're a runner, or if you can just endure another class. Whatever it is you're passionate about, we want to help you get back on the court, get back on the mat, get back in the pool, whatever it is that you're passionate about. And that's kind of our mission here at LifeVantage, is we believe science matters here because we believe you matter. So thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Heidi and I are super excited to share this with you. Stay tuned, because you're going to hear a whole lot more about NAD activation. Night, everyone.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.